I know there's a few of you that are still kind of coming in here last minute, but I just want to go ahead and take a minute to introduce myself. I know a lot of you probably know me. My name is Kate Snodgrass. I'm here from the Caledonia area. For those that don't know me, hopefully by the end of the night we know each other pretty well. Tonight, we're going to just kind of briefly kind of go over Convention of States and what this is all about, because I know a lot of you have questions. What I want to do really briefly is just explain to you why I kind of brought you guys all together here tonight. For me, Convention of States was something that kind of just filled my heart, okay? Me and my husband received I received a phone call. It was an invitation to a town hall meeting, a Convention of States in Spring Valley. And I said, oh, well, why not, okay? I'm tired of the things that are going on. I felt like I didn't have any power, any say about things that were going on, and I just wanted to find out if there's something that I could do. So we took a Saturday, we went to the meeting. Little more, is that better? All right, thank you. So we went to the meeting, and at that meeting we got a lot of information. And after the meeting, I went home and I felt so empowered with information that I wanted to reach out to people that I knew immediately and say, how else can I share this message? So I did what I knew how to do, and I turned to, social media, and I messaged a few people, and I said, this is what I learned tonight, and who here would like, to know some of this information? Who else wants to know what I learned today, and who would be interested in learning this information? And that turned into, from 15 people, turned into 150 people. And that just told me that, I wasn't alone, that I felt like more people wanted to be more involved in what is going on. They want to feel like they can make a difference, or they want to know that there's something else that they can do. So that's how this got turned into you guys being here tonight. So I want to thank each and every one of you for showing up. And taking time out of your busy lives to come here and just hear this information. And what you guys do with this information is completely up to you. I hope in the end you guys feel like there's something that you can do or you want to be involved. And if so, we welcome you. Okay? So with this, I am now going to turn this over to Rod. Rod is going to do an opening prayer for us. So if you guys would like to participate in the prayer, please do. Okay?
First of all, I want to say thank you all to you for coming and taking part in this. It's really something that we all need to be aware of what's going on in our country and how we can work together to remedy the problems that we are having. If you bow your heads in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we come before you with thankful hearts for overseeing the foundation of the greatest country in the history of the world. We know that the founders were very intentional in following your word in the drafting of our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. We thank you that you provided discernment to the founders so they would make provisions to allow our citizens to have a remedy to imperfections of our leaders that have manifested itself in the tyranny of a government that has chosen to serve their own self-interests and those of a new world order. They are attacking our God-given rights that are enumerated in the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. We see these rights being attacked on a regular basis. We ask that you would give this body of people the same discernment today to be able to follow your will for our nation in this meeting. Help us to be civil in our discourse and stick to the agenda of this meeting. Lord, we have been a constitutional republic for over 245 years. We ask for your almighty power to help us continue on with this form of government until your return to claim all your followers for eternity. We ask this in the name and for the glory of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Rod. Next, I would like to ask if there is a veteran here that would like to please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance for us. Is there anybody here? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much.
Are there any veterans here tonight? Can we just have a show of hands? Thank you, thank you. I should put my hand down. Thank you very much.
Next, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to our presentator for the night, who is Andy Clipperton.
What's this one? How's that? Oh, wow. Yeah, we're too close. There we go.
Oh, you got yours too, don't you?
Yeah, I got my lapel on. That would be the #1 channel. There we go. Everybody hear me all right? Whoa. Yeah, we got to have I could probably yell loud enough you could all hear me, but Facebook wouldn't hear me. So, my name's Andy. I come down from the cities, not to tell you all what to do, because I know anything better. I mean, you guys know really good. But I'm only one generation off the farm. I would feel real comfortable around here real quick, let me tell you. I'm thinking I want to quit my job, move down here. The drive down 76 was absolutely gorgeous. We're going to have a time for questions and answers after we're done with the presentation. If you could please hold your questions until then. I will actually be asking you all some rhetorical questions. You don't need to answer those right now. Just kind of file them in your head and think about them. And with that, we'll get going. Do we have a problem here in this country? Rhetorical question, yeah. And what exactly is that problem? I'm sure we've all got our ideas, but I'm going to talk about 3 biggies, 3 big problems. One question you might want to ask is, do we have bad people elected to our government? I think we all have an opinion on that. Well, again, this is rhetorical. We don't need to answer that right now. Can we really solve the problems by electing good people? Maybe you don't have an opinion on that yet. Maybe after I'm done you will. We'll see. But here's the big question. What is the biggest problem? I'm going to talk about 3 biggies, but which one's the biggest? You know where all this, we're going to talk about the problems. We got debt and spending, federal overreach, and career politicians. You know where all this money is coming from that we're spending? Yeah. Oh, there we go. That's right. We got the lights off. Now I won't feel quite so intimidated by all you. You know where all that, oh, I can't see my notes. There we go. Mwah. You know where all this money is coming from? It's coming from the Federal Reserve. Did you know that the Federal Reserve is a privately held entity? It's not actually part of the federal government. Since 1913, the federal government has been printing currency and loaning it to us at interest. Is that the biggest problem, debt and spending? Federal overreach. Anybody heard Pelosi? Oh, this just blew my mind when she said, we have to pass it to see what's in it. Oh man, was I ticked off when I heard her say that. That's not constitutional. That's overreaching, and we are definitely seeing it today. And I have a pretty good idea that a lot of what we're seeing in the last couple of months brought you all out here. And for as horrible as it is, it's actually kind of good because it's waking people up to what's been really going on. Then we also got the judges legislating from the bench and career politicians. Are either one of those the biggest problem? Well, here's where we talk about bad politicians versus good politicians. It doesn't matter who's in office. Look at that spending. I'm kind of tall, so maybe we might have to look around me to see the screen, I guess. Sorry. But it really doesn't matter who we elect. That's because when you elect bad politicians into a bad system, you get bad results. And if you elect good politicians into a bad system, you still get bad results. Are the good politicians really the good ones? Everyone is vulnerable to corruption. We've heard the quote, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Where does it? Oh, I'm one thing behind. That was. It doesn't matter who's in control of the budget. Why not? Because out of control tax and spend is destroying future generations of America, but it's also destroying us today. Right here, right now. Can anyone say 3.5 trillion? Oops. We missed that one. We're not off the hook. Medicare funding is supposed to be gone by 2026. Social Security, some people think, is going to be completely gone by 2034. Here's an interesting side note. What country has declared that their goal is to be the world power by 2035? China. Coincidence? I think not. Bureaucracies. That's part of the federal overreach. That's part of the other big problem. Here's a short little video talking about differences between, let's see if we can get this to work. There we go. Those are the laws that are passed and signed by Congress and put into law. These represent all the rules and regulations put in place by bureaucracies. Yeah, wait for it. We're not done yet. Still not done. Wait. Just about there. Yeah. Who's really ruling the country here? Who's really ruling? Who's really making the decisions? Let's see here. I thought we had sound with that. Did we? Oh, that's right. Now we should be good. The jab mandate is one example of those. Let's see here.
People that are frustrated with Washington, D.C. often say, well, they don't follow the Constitution anyway. Not true. They follow the wrong one. They're following the Constitution as interpreted by the Supreme Court rather than the Constitution as written.
This, taken out of my pocket, is a pocket constitution. 4,000 words in the original document, 4,400 words. If you count the amendments, we're talking about 7,000 words. But here is the Constitution in force today. This is 3,000 pages of Supreme Court rulings showing what every ruling has done to the original words. This isn't going to get any smaller. In fact, every time they publish this document, they leave a bunch of blank pages at the back for additional rulings that they know are coming. Every page in this document means a grant of power to the federal government. Understand that this is the Constitution in operation today. And unless we change it, unless we make its wording crystal clear, we're going to continue to operate under this document forever and ever until the whole house of cards comes falling down.
A lot of that started in a little 12-acre patch of wheat field. I think it was in Wyoming. The discussion went all the way to the Supreme Court over whether or not this farmer could raise 12 acres of wheat to feed to his own livestock. His state had passed a law stating you can only raise so much wheat because they were trying to control the market. They were trying to push prices up by restricting production. And so you couldn't raise more than X number of acres of wheat to sell. Well, he said, well, I'm not going to sell these 12 acres. I'm just going to feed them to my own livestock. They took him all the way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court sided with the state because they misinterpreted the Interstate Commerce Clause, and they claimed power to regulate how much wheat this man could raise. That's the kind of interpretations that are in that 3,000-page long Constitution that we operate under today. Career politicians, but is federal overreach the biggest problem? No, we'll see. Career politicians. Take a look at the average tenure of senators and representatives over time. Stunning, isn't it? Here's what happens. Congress passes laws that direct bureaucracies to write regulations. That's why Pelosi could say, you have to pass it to see what's in it. You had to pass the law to hand it over to the bureaucracy so they could write the rules and regulations. That's how we're operating today. Congress isn't writing laws, they're writing directives. And these bureaucrats that they are directing aren't accountable to us. They're only accountable to the people that give them a job, Congress and the executive branch. And they get that way by being there years and years and decades at a time. So, is that the biggest problem? I don't know. I know that founding fathers certainly didn't think that we would have career politicians being paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and coming out worth multiple millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars. George Washington, for example, he didn't even want to run for president in the first place, much less the second time. And he's the one that set the precedent, saying just 2 terms, but it was never official. Well, we know what happened to that. How many of you actually believe the 2020 election reflects the will of the people? Rhetorical question. Rhetorical question. Some people say that we already have term limits. They're called elections. And how's that been working out for us? I wouldn't say that's very well. When we have Congress people and senators in office that long, here's what they do. They happily accumulate power and wealth as long as we, the people, let them. So I've talked about 3 big problems: taxing and spending and debt, federal overreach, and career politicians. But is that the biggest problem that we face today? I would put forth to you that it is not. Our biggest problem is the apathy of we the people, myself included. I have been apathetic. I have said that's politics. I don't like politics. And that's what's brought us to where we are today, our own apathy. And we need to repent of it. I have repented of it. We need to take our government back. So we have a solution towards that. It's only one part of the solution. We are in a war, an existential battle, whether we know it or not. A lot of people don't realize it. The fact that you're sitting here listening to me indicates that you probably have a pretty good idea that we are in a battle, at least, if not a full-out war. I'm here to tell you we are in a full-out war. It's a war of information, and I am wielding my weapon right now, giving you information, and I'm inviting you all to take it in turn and pass it on to someone else, just like Kate did. Our mission statement at Convention of States Action is to build an army of self-governing citizen activists, grown from the true grassroots. We had a meeting last Saturday up near Buffalo. Our host painted with white paint on an old door she had. You can't get much more grassroots than that. We met in a hayfield that was outside of her place there. If you're done being apathetic, congratulations, you've joined the Great Awakening. Convention of States Action has a solution, and we can all work together to achieve. What is that solution? Well, let's take a look at what the founders had to say.
15th of September, 2 days before they signed the document, the end of 4 long, hot months in Philadelphia, they were ready to go home. But George Mason noticed that Article 5 only had a single method for amending the Constitution. He said, wait a minute, what if Congress becomes an obstacle?
It was given to us by George Mason, who said, look at guys, someday this government's going to abuse its power, and there won't be anything for you ever to ratify if it's counting on Congress to reduce the power of the federal government. So we need to give the states the ability to reduce the power of the federal government.
If you look at our country kind of like a ship being sailed on the ocean, Article 5 is kind of like a way to make a course correction, because they realized that as time went on, things would come up that they couldn't foresee, the Founding Fathers, and they put this in a way of making course corrections. But at first, they only put in a course correction way for the captain and his officers. Article 5 also put in a way for us, the crew, to make a course correction, bypassing the captain and his crew in a legal way so it wouldn't be called mutiny, which is what we ended up doing in the Revolutionary War, because there was no path. We have that path today, and it's called an Article 5 Convention of States. We can do it. Let's see what Article 5 says. The Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution, or, and that first way, that's the captain and his first officer and maybe a mate or two deciding that we need to make a course correction. This second clause, or on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the several states, that's us, we the people, shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which in either case shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this Constitution when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states, or by conventions of the 3/4 thereof, as one of the other modes may be proposed by the Congress. In other words, Congress has two roles legally, according to the Constitution, in this method. They call the convention after they get 2/3 states asking for one. They call it and they designate a place and a time. And the other thing they do is determine how it's going to be ratified, whether it's going to be by the legislators, the legislative bodies of all the states, or by conventions, and the states themselves decide how they're going to ratify or not ratify. We need 34 states in order to pass these resolutions. Currently we have 15. This is not a constitutional convention, by the way. A lot of people like to tell you that it's a constitutional convention where we completely rewrite. No, that's not what the article says. It says proposing amendments to this Constitution, the existing Constitution, not write a whole new one. Any proposed amendments must still be ratified by 3/4 of the various states. That would be 38 out of 50 states. But we haven't even gotten close to that. We're still working on getting the proposal convention part down first. But that is indeed a very high bar. No, I'm well into how it works. This is where we start. right here. Our plan, we want to use these tools. Oh, here's an interesting thing. A lot of people think that writing laws changes a man's heart. That's a lot of what we're facing against. That's a lot of big reason why we're here where we are, is because we believe laws will change a man's heart. I'm here to tell you that is not true. Only God can change a man's heart. Only God can do that. Laws do not change hearts. Laws put up societal structure and order. And that's what we were founded upon, and that's what we've gotten away from. We have made laws our God, not our Creator. We the people lead. This is where signing the petition gets you started. By signing the petition, we send those to our state legislators. Cal, how many of you have gotten of these? A whole bunch of them, right? Hundreds of petitions. We send them to their office directly saying, these are people in your district that support what we're doing. The Convention of States with these 3 action points addressing term limits, fiscal restraint, and limiting federal power. The next step, something me and Kate have both alluded to already, is talking to your friends, your neighbors, your co-workers, the mailman, anyone. Wield the weapon of information fearlessly, because we're dealing with truth versus lies, and we have the truth here. And the third part of being engaged in the people leading is talking to your own state legislators on a personal level. We have seen handwritten letters be very effective in changing minds. People calling up their state legislators and talking to them and asking them to meet face to face. Let them know this is what you want. There were 2 items in the last biennium that were the most commonly heard of by our state legislators: gun control and Convention of States. After we get our state legislators on board, they sign the resolution. It has to go through committees in each house. We got a Senate and a House of Representatives in Minnesota. Once we get them through committee, then they go out to a floor for a vote. The governor has nothing to do with this. He doesn't have to sign it. This is a resolution, not legislation. So the legislators, they pass the resolution, and then it gets forwarded to Congress. And that's where they call the convention for proposing amendments. They set the date, they set the time, they set the place, and then they step out according to the Constitution. Now, as you've seen, we got that 3,000-page Constitution that we're actually operating under. And yeah, you can bet they're not going to just simply step out. They're going to try their tricks, but we're not going to let them. We the people, they get their authority from us, we the people, not the other way around. After the amendments, after the convention is called, they meet and they discuss ideas, they form committees, they put forth language, and then they vote on them. They decide on, the exact verbiage, everything, and it only takes a 51% majority to pass a proposal on for ratification in this part of the process. Just a simple majority. Each state gets only 1 vote. They can send as many delegates as they want, but there's only 1 person commissioned to actually vote on behalf of a state. That's the commissioner. 1 state, 1 vote. Simple majority. After any proposed amendments that come out of the convention are sent to the various states to be ratified. And again, 38 states need to vote yes. There are 99 state legislative bodies in our country. Almost all but 1 state have bicameral legislative bodies. There's 1 unicameral. So out of the 99 legislative bodies across the country, we only need 13 of them in order to kill a bad amendment proposal. Only 13. I'm pretty sure we can find 13 legislative bodies across the country that will vote down bad proposal amendments. And then when that happens, when it's ratified, congratulations, you have amended the Constitution. At least according to the Constitution we have. We have a strategy. Our strategy is to accomplish this is twofold. First of all, we start off with this is a model of the resolution. This is what we are using as a pattern across the country because we need to have the same or very similar language in every state in order for Congress to actually pay attention. They've taken it upon themselves to decide what constitutes 34 states worth of resolutions, and they've decided they all have to be the same. Here's what's really important right here. Section 1 of the resolution talks about calling of a convention of the states limited to proposing amendments to the Constitution that impose fiscal restraints on the federal government, limit the power and jurisdiction of the federal government, and limit the terms of office for the members of Congress and their officials. We need to disrupt the deep state. Again, 15 states have passed it already. That's 30%. There are other Convention of States organizations out there, but only the organization that I'm representing here has 3. There's an organization out there that's pushing for term limits, and that's all they're pushing for. There's another one pushing for a balanced budget amendment. I believe neither one of those by themselves is enough. We need all 3 of these, especially the limiting the reach of federal power. Because if we don't put that in place, if we the people don't take our authority back, they'll just find ways around whatever we do manage to get through. That's why I think it's important that we have the 3-pronged attack here. We're seeing this happen, the grassroots army. It is happening across the country. I'm also involved in an audit the vote movement here in the state. If you don't think shenanigans went on in our state, you are sadly mistaken, and I have seen the proof with my own eyes. And we can talk about that separately. That's a separate thing, but people are getting organized. Who hasn't heard about the school board meetings across the country? Yeah. That's we the people taking our authority back. You go, parents. I don't care if the FBI is coming after you. Double down. Double down, because they don't have enough FBI agents to be at every single school board meeting. Double down. Show up twice as strong. Protests against vaccine mandates, critical race theory, protests against masks, that's all we the people throwing off the chains of tyranny. Do it. Go for it. Now here's something that we may not have heard about. BPOU meetings. Get involved locally. Convention of States is but one front of this war. We need everyone fighting somewhere. This is all-out war. This is all hands on deck. So if you decide that Convention of States, maybe this isn't your thing, that's fine. Get involved somewhere. But this is a place, Convention of States, we're beyond just these amendments. We want individual citizen activists activated. And that's you and that's me. Take a look at your neighbor. Say, you're a citizen activist, because you can be if you want to be. The enemy seeks to destroy us. There is no doubt about it. So our momentum is definitely building. The real enemy isn't just a certain political party. The real enemy has infiltrated both parties. I think we all know that. That's one of the main reasons why our founding fathers didn't want a 2-party system. So in closing, Convention of States is but one front of the war. More and more people are seeing the truth. I have identified 3 big problems: spending and debt, federal overreach, career politicians, but that's not the biggest problem. Biggest problem is apathy of we the people. Let's get out there and wake our neighbors up. Thank you very much. Okay, we're ready to take some questions, I think, or what was next on the agenda? Kate, you're up.
Questions.
Questions? We have a wireless microphone, and in order for our Facebook audience to hear it, there are droves and droves, right? 2. But we are doing a Facebook feed, so if you have a question, please wait for the microphone so that everyone can hear what your question is.
What's the Facebook feed, by the way?
It's on the Minnesota Convention of States web Facebook page.
I also shared it on the COS Facebook group, if you're a part of that. You have a statement?
Yes.
Okay, I think I got that.
Let's see, how am I going to word this? Being alone, like I have been, is not the way to go about it. Because I spoke up against BLM and the masks, and I got kicked out of Oneota Food Co-op. So where do I sign up to be a part of the group?
We have, talked to Kate there, we have paper petitions to sign, and there is a little box on our petitions that says, I want to be a volunteer. I highly encourage you to check that box. No, we'll come after you. Anyone who signs the petition can expect a call from a volunteer saying thank you. Do we have any other questions? Oh, don't tell me I covered everything. I can't be that good. He asked, what do you think about digital currency? I don't know enough about it to have an informed opinion, but I have bought Dogecoin. If the federal government issues it, yes. Yes, sir.
Okay, I have kind of a two-part question. I'm all in favor of getting rid of these long-entrenched politicians, but by term limiting them, aren't you going to make the new or the younger ones more susceptible to the bureaucracy and the lobbyists?
Would that be a good one for?
Yeah. Would you like to address that, Cal? Take the microphone there.
Just
And then we'll come back to you for your second part of your question.
So, as an example, you talked about term limits. So Florida instituted term limits in the late 90s, 8 years. State legislators, senators, 8-year limit. The size of the Florida government actually decreased over the next 10 years. It has continually, the size and scope of their budget and their agencies has continually decreased. So, while it's a concern, it also puts people who go to a legislature, get elected with passion. It doesn't make them wait 15, 20 years to get wore down before they're in a position where they can influence legislation, be a committee chair, that kind of thing. So your second term in there, you might only be there 2 years. You can be a committee chair and have a greater impact before you have been worn down, beat down, bought. There's any number of terms you can put on that. So when you take all of those people that have been there 20, 30 years, Duane, what did Lyndon Carlson, was it 50 years when he retired last year? Didn't he have 25 terms in when he retired? 50 years as a state legislator. Just retired this last election was he retired. 50 years, really? So anybody who's been there 40 years and wants the job he's got as Ways and Means Chair, 40 years, that gives every lobbyist and every different angle so much time to wear that person down. But if you go to a term limit of 8 or 10 years, people can have go in with their true passions and stay true without getting wore down first. I hope that answers or gives some clarity to that a little bit.
I think that is a legitimate concern to a certain degree. I also think that by limiting terms, you give them less of a chance to get addicted to OPM, other people's money.
the other question I have is how do we get rid of the bureaucrats? How do you term limit them, especially in the State Department?
That is a very good question, and yeah, it definitely needs to happen. That would be an amendment. The wording of that amendment would have to come out of the convention. That's one of the reasons why we have rather vague goals, so that any number of ideas can be discussed. So getting rid of the deep state bureaucracy, that could take the form of any number of angles of attack, one of which I cannot even begin to think of right now, other than just completely eliminating the departments altogether. We don't need well, there we go. That was one of them, getting rid of departments that are redundant. I mean, like the Department of Education, states have their own departments of education. Why do we need a federal one? And that would address, federal overreach and career politicians. Does that answer your question, sort of? Partly? Yeah, I hate giving we'll have to see, because that almost sounds like Pelosi. You have to see, but. Right. We have to call the convention in order to see what comes out of it. But see, the difference is that's a legitimate excuse. Because what we're giving the representatives at the convention is the liberty to represent us in lots of ways. And I'm sure they'll have all kinds of ideas. Okay, I thought I saw another hand over here somewhere. Oh, okay.
I got a quick question for the gent there that was just up. How many million was that 25-term politician? How many million was he worth when he retired?
We don't know.
Obviously, we know it was quite a bit. But in the beginning, you alluded to the Federal Reserve. I was just wondering if you could expand a little bit more on the Federal Reserve for us, please.
I have only a little bit of knowledge, just enough to be dangerous. But I do know that it is a privately owned entity run by the Rockefeller families. And they make, there's this is not a big secret. 5 families, right. And they print out our currency. They were initially, if I understand it right, their purpose was to basically run the economy, and by controlling the amount of currency that's printed. And they have gone completely off the rails, which I believe was their intent from day one. They just they took the Fabian attack route. Just build it up nice and slow and sneak it in there slowly. We're not just fighting the communists here, people. The communists are actually a tool. And the private central western banks are a big part of who's really running things.
I've got a question. A lot of the problems that happened with that election was the attorney generals and governors of states changed the voting laws in that state and usurped that power. What do you do about that?
That is absolutely what happened. And the Minnesota Voters Alliance is suing in spite of all the opposition. But we, the people, need to take control of that. And this is at the state level. I'm involved in a group separate from Convention of States. I am definitely part of the engaged citizen activists here. We can't really address that at the national level. That's a state issue we need to talk about. But we have to do something about it. Absolutely. And we need to stand up and just say, no, we're not doing this anymore. We're not going to let you run our elections for us. Do you know how much Zuckerberg spent across the nation?
A lot of money.
$419 million. And he wasn't making campaign contributions. He was setting up nonprofits to come in and take over the election process. That's what really happened.
And we're using Facebook.
And we're using Facebook, I know. It bugs me too.
That's how we get back at him. We use his own stuff against him.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. So, any other questions? Hopefully, let's try to focus a little bit more on the convention, the national level. I know there's a huge issue with local stuff, and that's great. Yes, sir.
Don't call me sir.
My apologies.
It's less of a question and more of a comment to what
Yes.
you were saying. I'm with you on the local activism.
Yeah.
And what you said about being out at school board meetings and city council meetings and county commission meetings and stuff, that's actually going to aid the Convention of the States movement.
Yep.
Because it's going to put people in a position where they're learning how things work and they're able to represent the local level. And so, as much as what he said, don't just sign up for their email, make sure you're getting involved. And it's hard. And that's
Yes.
this poor lady up here at the front, what do I do?
Well,
nobody wants.
Make some connections here.
Yes.
Network here, and next time you want to make a stand like that, let your
Yes.
network know so they can all show up with you.
And I'll be part of that. So
Awesome.
catch me before you leave, and I'll find out how I can help you. I do have a question about the
Yes.
convention of the state. So, it's been, how many years has it been since we've actually had one?
Never.
Right.
It has been tried over 400 times.
Right.
And there's a really good reason why it's not easy to do. Because changing the Constitution, even just a little bit, shouldn't be hard, shouldn't be easy. We need a vast coalition. We need a vast amount of people across the country supporting anything that we do. So it's hard, but it's worth it.
And with that is, what do you think here in Minnesota, what do you think would be the compelling argument to what kind of argument would we need to take to get that to happen, to get people in Minnesota to get behind that and support it?
Primary. We're going to primary you out if you don't support us. You're going to lose your job. Hit them in the pocketbook. That's the only thing I can think of. I've tried the dangling the apple. Look, if we do this, you'll actually get more power. It hasn't worked yet, at least not in the Democrat. I've been in Democrat districts for the last 6 years. The apple isn't working, so it's time to go to the stick. We're going to primary you out if you don't support this.
Because it's not that Minnesotans don't want it.
Oh,
They
yes,
do.
we want it.
We do. 76, it's what, the number is 76% now?
Yep, 76%.
So we want it. We have to get others, like these gentlemen here, on board.
Yep.
Okay, we need to work with our local representatives, and right now, and I'll discuss it in a little bit, but, working with people like Greg Davids. Okay, he's our local representative that I know a majority of us here have possibly voted for him. Okay, so we have to get on the horn with him. We have to talk to him. Okay? Any other questions? Karen?
This is great. I am so excited you all are here.
Who are these people? All right.
That was your question? Yep. All right, was another question over here?
Could you just go over a little bit more about, say we got to the convention and who are the delegates and, who's actually would be going in there to change these laws?
Would one of you guys like to answer that for me, please?
We already had a simulated convention.
Okay. We're going to introduce you, and he'll have
It just makes sense now,
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. Nice segue. You're not a plant, by the way.
Yeah.
Neither was he. I have no idea who either one of these, but they're acting like plants. They're not.
All right, we're just going to go ahead and introduce. The first one that we have is our Representative Bahr. Okay, and then we have Representative Duane Quam. If you guys would like to stand up and
Thank you for coming. Really
Yes.
appreciate it.
And if you guys can let us know exactly what district you're from.
Okay. So I'm Bahr. I'm District 31B, which is nowhere close to here. I'm from North Anoka County, which is the north side of the metro. There, get behind the speaker. Yes, I am a supporter of COS. I believe that the federal government is way out of control. Some of the pieces that kind of miss, so you talked about who are the delegates. So each state legislature would appoint the delegates. They would typically be appointed they would be other state legislators, but they could be somebody outside. The state legislature gets to appoint the delegates to go. That's the key piece. The legislature would appoint the delegates. So those would be the ones that would be writing the actual language. It's a kind of a broad brush. COS is, how do you limit federal power? That's a pretty broad proposed amendment. But by doing that, you afford the delegates at the convention the opportunity to come up with interesting and unique ideas. When we sit down and talk with legislators or delegates from the other 50 states, there will be a lot of different ideas put on the table. Duane mentioned a practice convention. I was at a practice convention for one of the single subject ones, a balanced budget amendment. I was at a practice convention for that, and just in that small little area, there were a vast majority of different ways to approach that simple problem. So going back to the,
Original question?
well, I don't know, what was the original question?
How
do we
are
fit-
delegates chosen?
How are delegates chosen? So you'd be your state legislators. So personally, I think that after the next election, we should have enough angst in the state of Minnesota to beat the fraud machine, and we should be able to actually get the rare opportunity to control all three branches, which would be where each and every one of you in this room, plus about 10 of your friends, need to hold Duane, me, David's, every other state legislator's feet to the fire, because this is a rare, small opportunity to change the way government functions at a core level. Administrative law, the judges actually, we talk about the administrators, they go out and do all these different things that write these rules that have the force of law. I, as a state legislator, never see any of their rules that they want to put forward. That's something that needs to change. This is one of those things in that rare opportunity where you can change the way government actually functions so that a school board can actually decide what the curriculum for the students should be. Because I can guarantee you that what needs to be taught in Minneapolis and St. Paul school districts is not the same thing that needs to happen here in Caledonia. You have a very each community has a unique way, a unique element to it. And the students, the kids need to understand their local community first. We have turned everything in the 240 years, we have turned everything exactly backwards from where Jefferson said he wanted every decision that could be made at a township level. Do you think we're anywhere close to a township level?
No.
We're almost exactly opposite, where a township level has absolutely no authority. My local school board gets discretion on they have 16% of their budget they can spend how they want. They have discretion on that. 16%. So those are your tax dollars. You elected somebody to go oversee the school board, and yet they only get this one little sliver. Everything else is either dictated by Washington, which has no constitutional authority to have a Department of Education in the first place,
That's right.
or a state agency that their rules never went through a legislature. So it's exactly opposite the way it should be. So yes, these are the kind of things that I try and deal with, and these are the things that we need to fix through Convention of the States, because government is not going to fix itself. It's like asking a dog if it's hungry. It's always hungry. Even your dog is always hungry, even though he's laying there nicely right now. But one other little thing that I want to toss in before I sit down and be quiet, lay by my dish here. The court system, especially, you saw the 3,000-page annotated version of the Constitution. Here's one of the key problems that I see, and this could go back to part of limiting federal power. Politicians appoint Supreme Court justices, and then we, the people, expect those Supreme Court justices to actually rule against the people that put them there. Said another way, those of us that, I think all of us in this room are probably old enough to have kids, or pretty close to it. It would be like the parent of a teenager having the teenager write their curfew rules and the house rules, the rules that they must apply by. The parent gives the rules, which would be the Congress, because the state legislature, because we created the federal government. The state legislatures actually created that monster, which is why it's up to state legislatures to rein it back in through the Article 5 process. But if your kids said, we appoint, we got kids, the state's created kids, or the mom and dad creates kids, and then the kids go out and get their friends to come over and say, we rewrote the rules, and now you mom and dad have to live by them. That's not the way this works. The parents are in charge, or state legislatures are in charge. The kids don't get to write the rules, which we created Congress. Congress gets their friends to come over and say, state legislature, you now have to abide by this new set of rules. I know I probably didn't say that real clear, but it's exactly backwards. It's the inmates running the asylum. It's the kids are in charge of things. Right. It's exactly upside down. And those of us, the entity that created that monster has to kill it. So with that, I'm going to go lay by my dish.
Well, thank you. I was getting to the point where I was saying, hey, thank you. Oh, this one's yours.
Duane, Quam, 25A, the Rochester area, just a little bit west. I want to clarify, it was discussed that, you know, the governor, secretary of state, actually the courts had a big impact on our
We need you in the
election
microphone
law.
so the Facebook can hear you, please.
All right.
Sorry.
The courts had a huge impact in that the Secretary of State could not get through legislative changes for the election law. He wanted to get rid of the, you know, witness signature on absentee ballots and other things. So they found League of Women Voters, all these other groups to sue them, had a court that was appointed by either probably Dayton or I think it was Dayton, and they allowed the Secretary of State to ignore state law and make an agreement to do exactly what the legislature would not pass. A true judicial system would look and say, well, that has to be passed through statute, and in fact, the legislature refused to pass that, so that would not be a valid agreement that the Secretary of State could do. But getting on to the convention, we had a simulated convention of states, which was in Williamsburg, and that was about 7 years ago. And we divided up into 3 groups to cover the 3 different areas. But there were multiple discussions of how to do, like, term limits. You know, some people you were allowed 2 terms in each chamber. And so the general subject is given, but the people that come forward and work out that will come up with a specific language. The problem with the balanced budget only is I can see Congress being forced into having that and then harpooning it because, well, see, we told you it wouldn't work. But when we add state sovereignty into it, reestablishing the founders' dictate that the power came from the states to create the federal government, the power still resides in the states and the people. Unless we specifically give it over, it's still in the states and the people. And by making that plain so even some of the Harvard-educated judges could understand. You know, the term limit is, I think, one that some people have a problem with. I can say that Ron Paul spent decades in Washington, D.C., and he was not converted or swayed. He didn't have huge accomplishments, but I saw term limits as a way to save good people from being subverted. In the states, you live in your communities, you put gas on, you buy groceries, and you see your neighbors in the community. But when they're spending most of their time in D.C., they don't have that connection. And good people drift. Not everybody, but that is a point that we need to, that's why we got the 3 things. Budget, it's like, can you guys even add? You know, state sovereignty, remember where the power lies. And the third one is term limits so that you don't get too soft out there sitting there. But we had 3 members, Senator Chamberlain, Representative Cindy Pugh, who founded one of the Tea Party organizations in the Metro, and myself. And we went out there and we worked on to see what processes there were and get an idea of what the language might come out to be. So you can find references to that in the on the national.
The Convention of States
Convention of
website
States.
has
Yep.
the Convention of States simulation on it.
And people ask, well, why do you think? I said, there are times when ordinary people come forward. In a great time, they do something more than they could do themselves. When this nation was founded, people from all across the country came together and created something different. We just have to blow the dust off of it, chisel off, sandblast the paint that, Supreme Court's put on, get us back to where it is, and, add the balanced budget. They never thought people would be spending decades in the legislature and Congress. So it's common sense things, and we need to convince that the single issues by themselves are not enough. You need the combination of the three to ensure success. But I will hand it back unless there's questions.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions at this point? I guess we
Yeah,
got a
two
couple.
more.
All right.
Excellent. I'm almost disappointed there aren't any Birchers here tonight.
In line
John
with
Birch
the
Society.
in line with the state sovereignty issue, are there concerns with the COS about federalizing the police across the nation? Because I
Yeah.
think we see that developing when you look at what Minneapolis wants to do, what they want to do in Seattle, and what you see kind of creeping throughout the country.
Yep.
And they want to destroy the police and then federalize it.
Yep.
And now you have local police enforcement done by federal enforcers, not talking about FBI, Secret Service. We're
Right.
talking about guys driving around in squad cars that are on a federal payroll, which
Yep.
could become a real issue on enforcement issues. So.
Yep, that's definitely an issue, and it's come up recently. I absolutely abhor it. We had someone raise their hand here in the center here, as well as over there. We had.
So I guess I have a couple. My first question is, so you said that our governor has no part in this whatsoever. He has no say over it?
That's right.
All right. Hallelujah. And then could you just quickly break down the next 3 steps that we need to take, or the goals that we need to obtain? So in order of what's the first thing we need to do, second thing, third thing?
The first
What are
thing
our
we
goals?
need, okay, first thing we need to do is wake up, get out of bed, and start doing something. Talk to our state legislators, get them on board. Neither one of you represent this area, right? Yeah, so you need to get in contact with your representative. If you don't know who it is, find out. Secretary of State website, poll finder, whatever. They'll tell you what your. Okay, Greg Davis is your representative, and Jeremy Miller.
Not yet, but we are currently working with them, and I'm going to touch base with you guys on that in just a few minutes.
Okay, yep. Handwritten letters. Take time. Yep, phone numbers, give them a call. But handwritten letters have changed more than one mind in our own state already, and they can change more. We had a question.
My
back
question is there's accountability in the government? There's really no accountability. And would it be possible to have fines for people that break the law and they're still in office and not kicked out? Just like basketball and football
Right,
players
yeah.
do? That'd be a great
That'd be a great
thing.
idea. Again, that would have to be something put in place during the convention, but I mean, we got a possible delegate here, if it ever comes. We had a question up here.
Is there any interest in maybe getting someone well-known to push more of this to get, that
Have you ever heard of Mark?
everybody knows?
Have you heard of Mark?
I mean, someone
Levin?
like Ted Nugent or something?
I think actually he is on board with it. I'm not sure. We'd have to check on that.
We
but
have
that
quite a
would-
few. If you go out to the Convention of States
Yep.
website as well, there's a whole page
Yep.
that
Mark
lists.
Levin, Colonel West, James Dobson are 3 that come off the top of my head right off the bat. Pete Hegseth from Fox.
He's been to Minnesota twice, speaking at the Capitol.
Yep. So.
There's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So,
We had a question up here.
Karen, you got another question?
Up here, Kate. Okay. We'll get to you.
So when you started tonight, I was glad to see a prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Absolutely, this is a spiritual battle.
So, Convention of States, when you get gathered together, our Christianity and God is at our focus, right?
That is my desire. Not everyone who's involved in this is a committed Christian follower of Christ. I'll tell you that right up front, but that doesn't mean it isn't a spiritual thing and that it's not going to be our focus. Mark Meckler is a Christian. He believes in God, and he absolutely is convinced that our nation is a Christian nation. Don't believe the lie that this is not a Christian nation. It is, in the truest sense of the word.
But we want to use that as our focus.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even people who aren't Christians will be more free under Christian rule. Right up here, Kate.
So was Greg Davids and Jeremy Miller invited this evening?
Yes, the both of them were invited.
And they
Actually,
declined?
Well, it's not that they declined. They both had other obligations that they were involved with. I actually have a letter on the back table that I brought for you guys to read if you guys want. When we first talked to Greg Davids, he's kind of been a hard read for us. He's not so much turned us down, but he is just looking for more information. And that's why I brought the letter for you guys to read. I know a couple people from my Facebook group have reached out to him and maybe not got the most positive response from him. So I took a separate approach, an old-fashioned approach, and I actually sent him a handwritten letter. And from that handwritten letter, within days, I got a letter back from him. And he is actually just looking for more information from you guys, the people here that showed up at the meeting. So instead of just getting...
Is that what this is about?
Yeah. So instead of just getting, that notification from you guys, when you guys fill out that, if you go online and you fill out the petition, from that petition, he gets a notification that you guys filled out the petition that says you guys back Convention of States, and that he's being notified that you guys have interest in your backing Convention of States. So he's been notified that each of you that have signed that you guys have interest and that you guys are asking him to back it. Okay? So he has that information. He's just looking for, I think, more personal information. He's kind of an old-fashioned guy is what I'm getting from him. So with his letter, he sent me a handful of these comment cards, and he asked, okay, after you guys have been to this meeting, he asked that you guys share your personal feelings or your view about why you guys feel that Convention of States is important.
You got one of them for every one of us?
I got 40, how many did we count? 46? Okay, so if you guys feel inclined, take one of these, fill it out, whatever you take from this meeting tonight. If you feel like you want him to back this, take this card, put your reasons why, and drop it in the mail.
It's already addressed. All
Yep.
it needs is a stamp.
All it needs is a stamp. If you feel he's worth a stamp, in your voice,
There
drop
you
it in
go.
the mail to him. Okay? And then I'm going to send him another handwritten letter, let him know how many of you showed up tonight, the general idea of how the meeting went.
And that they were looking for him.
How many people took cards, and that he should expect to receive cards from you guys. And at that point, if he still doesn't back it,
Primary.
I guess it's up to us then at how we decide to vote next time. Okay, as everybody tells me, vote your values, right? Okay? That's how we fix our problems.
I talked with Greg about this morning.
Okay?
And he had concerns about, the balanced budget. I don't think there are any issues with that. Exactly how we set up the state sovereignty, was pretty good. He was concerned that if you make the term limits too short, the staff and the lobbyists would be running Congress. Because, well,
Yeah.
we had the debate in the practice convention about, how long, what was the sweet spot in there, because for some people, it takes their second term, then they start writing their own stuff, and they, have a little bit of knowledge.
I think he was missing, I think he's missing a little more information as well, because
He needs a discussion.
I'll let you read the letter that he wrote as well, okay? Because I know he had questions about, the governor, and like I said, he obviously didn't understand that the governor didn't have a say in this. And I'll let you read the letter, and then you can maybe help fill in some of the blanks as well.
Yeah,
So,
well, I told him that if 13 states have one chamber or not, because runaway convention is what they hear.
Yep.
When we're talking with other legislators, the runaway convention, and then what are the specifics of those are the things that they argue, or they say, I'm uneasy with. But, so I talked to him about the governor doesn't have a say, it's just the legislature.
Yep.
And that there's going to be if there was a runaway convention, as long as you got 13 states with one chamber that won't pass it,
He needs the mic.
it fails.
Oh.
Sorry. Well, sorry.
I like natural immunity over artificial immunity,
Yeah,
and I
totally
prefer
get it.
the natural gift
Yep.
that was given from the artificial enhancement.
Yep.
But a lot of it tends to be they don't have the information. So you go to the site, you go to the tables back here, you get information, and use that when you write the comment cards. Reference the actual stuff, because there are great people at their organization at the national level that have summaries and statements and plagiarize, add your own story and stuff in there, but be sure to use that so we've got some consistency.
And in all reality, this is one of the things I'm actually going to stick into the letter that I sent back to Greg Davids, which I think this is is that one of the maps?
Yep.
Close to it, that I'm going to send to him. And I think any of you that are on my Facebook page for the Convention of States, I think I posted this information for you guys. But there's a few of the handouts out there, and basically what this is, it's an updated map that shows the progress of where we are across the country. Okay, so what states are on board? Okay, what states have passed it in one chamber? What states have passed it in two chambers? Okay, what states don't even have any at all? And what states have actually, ratified it? So it's kind of a nice, if you're looking for, something to share with people that really show where we are as a whole, this is nice. And this just came out last month? Beginning of
no idea.
October?
I think it was
at
about
beginning
a
of
month ago.
October is when this came out. Okay, because this actually showed that we went from 70% of Minnesota to now 76% of people in Minnesota actually want, a convention of states. So this is showing the growth, that we've come.
We've been at this since 2013. Well, we got a couple of questions up here, and I heard someone ask something back there, but I didn't hear what you said. Sorry.
We've got a ways to go before this COS is going to come into play.
It's a long game, yes.
So this is a question for you guys. Like, I assume you're both, this isn't a Republican thing here, but you're both Republicans, right?
Reluctantly.
Well, what are you guys doing, or the party itself, to make sure that you do what you said is going to happen? You get the governor, the Senate, and the House.
Don't need the governor.
Okay, fine. So, I kind of look at the Democratic Party as like a 30-titted sow. She's ready to take anything that will attach to her, just like a bloodsucker. And they don't care who they are, what kind of freak show they're running. When is the Republican Party going to wake up and come out of the 60s?
When we do, we need to make the Republican Party
I'm
change.
telling them right now.
Yep, you go.
There's nearly 50% of union labor that votes Republican, and you guys hammer the shit out of labor all the time. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that word, but I'm being kind.
I know a lot of our what's the right word for our spokespersons that speak on our behalf beat the shit out of labor all the time. Yes, I will.
And they need to knock it off.
We need to
They
vote
need
them
to
out.
realize that almost 50% I'm talking, okay, building and trades, construction labor.
Yep, I was one of them.
Welders, pipe
I'm an electrician. I'm an Obama-era Republican. I mean, that was the last piece of shit I'd ever vote for.
If you look
Yep.
at Austin, we now have Senator Duane, who's a carpenter, union guy. We have in Austin the school teacher, Patty Mueller, who's a rep. So those are both Republicans. We also have Rarick, who was in the House, now in the Senate, who's a union guy. Electrician. Yep. He's an electrician.
Well, I'm pretty involved in our local yet, even though I'm retired.
That's it. There you go.
Nobody ever spends any time coming to IBW 343. I mean, the Republicans.
That needs to change,
That
absolutely.
goofball that's in office up there, governor, I can't think of his name now.
Chairman Walz.
Yeah. He used to live there at the hall. It needs to change, you guys.
Yep.
And it isn't just labor. We've got you talked about it earlier, the school moms and all.
Yep, school board.
Everybody's.
Yeah.
The biggest question is not just what are these guys doing, and I hate to forget it. No, I don't. Otherwise I would. But
Yep.
I'm done.
Thank you.
But the biggest question, sir, and I know you don't know me, but I'm going to ask you, not just pointing at them, well, what are you doing? Are you going to school board meetings? Are you going to county commission meetings? Are you going to city council meetings?
I spent 5 years on the Rutherford Peterson School Board.
There we go.
And it's a goddamn mess.
Yep. So that's,
If you want to see people in office that are going to make a difference, you got to stop voting for just the R, and you got to find somebody to fill that R spot that represents you. And
Yep.
that will not happen until you put people in other positions starting this month.
and that starts at your BPO meeting if you're doing the Republican Party route. A BPOU is a
But I
basic
agree with what you
political
said, is everybody
operating
just
unit.
needs to wake
It's the
up
smallest,
and step
it's the
up.
smallest organized unit of the Republican political party. And it's usually organized by either district or sometimes county.
I was a precinct chair at 17, co-chair at 17, because I went to caucuses before I could vote. I was active in the party. I became a BPOU chair, CD chair on the state exec, and yeah, I was an outsider. But if you get involved, and you work and help and volunteer, you will become part of that, and you will move up and make an influencing change. Be an election judge. 15 years ago, more Republican election judges in this part of the state than DFL. Now on the statewide, there's over 10 times as many DFL election judges as Republican. If you don't have the eyes there and be involved, they can sneak stuff through. I'm one of the litigants with the Minnesota Voter Alliance to try and fix the county organizations. They actually follow the law about having an equivalent balance.
Yep.
And so, but if you get involved and show up at your BPOU, at your caucuses, become delegates, and work, recruit candidates, and then work to get them endorsed.
But the Republicans get kicked out of the election, and then the Democrats just start counting on their own.
Yeah, 2020 was a hot mess. There's no doubt about it.
I don't know the plan. I have faith that the Lord has a plan, and I use my skills. You all have skills. But the biggest skill you have, arming yourself with the truth. Having the truth so that when you're talking with other people and they say something that is, well, they must be listening to CNN maybe, but you have the truth and you bring it up. And you spread the word because the media's not going to do it.
That's right.
I could say a few things and Facebook would probably block the site.
Do it.
So, but they can't stop you
That's right.
from talking to the people you interact with. So grab the information, do your research, be armed with the truth, and be not shy and timid, because you are the army that shall bring us forth to victory and fix things. And the best thing about the pandemic is the fact that parents got to see what was being taught to their kids.
That's right. That's right. And they hated it.
The crowd that's out here is but a pittance of the total in your community. They're upset. But many of them don't know. They think maybe they're alone in that. But by being out and talking and contacting and networking, you spread that. And when you're brave enough to be a light in the darkness, you'll turn around and see 1,000 lights behind you. Because that's what you can do, and that's what this Convention of States is about. It's not just these three things. It's getting people involved, having people get up, look around, and say, we need to fix this, and then going forth and doing that work.
Thank you.
Which of the amendments to the Constitution were passed with the Convention of States?
None of the 27 amendments that we have so far have been passed this way. They've all been proposed by Congress themselves, although I don't know which ones. There were a few that got proposed and passed because we got close to calling a convention. And Congress said, well, we better... Which one? Slavery might have been one of them. What?
17th Amendment.
17th Amendment.
Which is the one.
Yeah.
So the closest one that I'm familiar with is the 17th Amendment, was directly to your question, which one has gone through the state legislature process. 17th Amendment got within 2 states of passing, and the Congress stepped in and said, oh, never mind, we'll pass it through the House and the Senate and then send it out to the states for ratifying. Why? They do not want you to recognize how much power you actually have. They want to keep you in the dark.
Yep.
That's why it was done that way. So if you can get Convention of the States to 32, 31, and it looks like they might pick up a couple more states, Congress will probably do this on its own, because they don't want you to know that you're in charge.
And they want to be the ones to write the proposal.
Right. And then so they won't, it'll just be Congress critters debating amongst themselves how little power they can give back to the people. I'm sorry, the 17th Amendment was the one that actually destroyed federalism.
Yep.
That's the one that says U.S. senators will be directly elected by the populace as opposed to appointed by the state legislatures.
Yep.
In other words, you now have 2 chambers in Congress, 2 chambers in Washington that are direct at the people's house. It was supposed to be one, and the other one was supposed to be representing the interests of the state legislatures. One represented the people, one represented the states, and when both of those agreed on something, then it could go to the president for signature. Now we have 2 of the same thing, and we have nobody representing the state interests. And that's one of the reasons why the budget is out of control, because there's no states there saying, wait a minute, we don't want to cede all of our control and everything else. You're giving me the hook, aren't you?
That's right.
That's what the 17th Amendment took away.
Right.
I would love to.
All right, I'd like to thank everybody for all of your questions tonight. It is closing in on 8:30, and we need to kind of start wrapping everything up. Before we do, I want to take a few minutes and just briefly talk to you guys about volunteering. Cindy, you want to come up for a minute? All right. How's everybody? You got a quick question? Oh wait, if we do it briefly?
Yeah, I can do it briefly.
Thank you very much.
Please attend your precinct caucus. If you do not attend them, you don't really have a voice.
That's right.
Because that's where it all starts. And your precinct is where you go to vote. And there will be caucuses, usually in February. And be absolutely sure you attend, because if you don't attend that, you don't have any say at your county convention, the district convention, or the state convention. You go to your precinct caucus and get elected as a delegate to the county convention. That's where you start. If you don't do that, you're just an attendee and no voice.
Thank you very much for that. That was actually very, very
Thank you.
important. Thank you.
I'd like to just say one quick word. If this sounds dangerous, I've heard a lot of people talk about how dangerous this sounds, messing with the convention, messing with the Constitution. Yes, but it's more than that. This is a war, and there will be casualties, but we need everyone to get involved anyway. And by standing up here in front of you, I have already marked myself as a target. So I'm willing to be a casualty to get this done for our children. I've got 5 kids. All of them are grown and on their own now. The youngest one is 23. I'm doing this for them. Who are you doing this for? Thank you.
Okay, just speak into this, all right. I'm Cindy Seabright, and Kate and I are going to be co-district chairs for Convention of the States. I was first introduced to Convention of the States when they had it in Zumbro Falls. A friend of ours knew that I was getting into politics, kind of watching the legislature and things like that, and let me know about the meeting there, and it kind of sparked a fire. And on looking on Facebook as well, there are a couple of pages that I follow, which are up in the northern part of the state. And it's like, you know, they were talking about stuff and they were getting together, they were having rallies, but there's nothing going on down in this area. And so Mary Bahr, who is part of the state representatives with the COS, I went to school with. And she contacted me and we set one up. And we had over 80 people and I about bawled. I just thought, I was humbled to see that. But, and it is wonderful to see you here, but there's something we need in the southern part of the state here. And this is the grassroots thing. They talk about becoming an election judge. Please check out the site to do that. Currently, I'm stepping up. I will say I'm glad we're from the Rocks and Cows area of Minnesota, even though it's the southern part, okay? I didn't wear my shirt, but anyway, I am running for school board as well. I thought enough is enough, and my daughter, I have a granddaughter that's attending preschool, and over the years I've heard things. You know, we've lost a number of students because either their needs weren't being met, something isn't right. And so I stepped up and a friend of mine said, well, start a Facebook page. It is up to 1,600 followers. And it's like, I fell off my chair, you know? So anyway, step up. And you know, you don't want to make waves, but it's time. And like they said, it's good versus evil right now. And times have changed, we know that. But we need to step up, step out of our comfort zone. I guess Katie's gonna run circles around me because I'm getting old, but I'm at that age where I really don't care. All right? Okay. My kids went to that school. My grandkids are going to go to that school, and by golly, we're going to make it great again. Oh, they'll probably kick me out. Oh, no. But, you know, there's something wrong. And I am an educator. I'm a college educator. And I don't agree with what's coming down with the state. Okay? Just the rumblings of what's coming out. So, no, get in there, get out of your comfort zone, and make noise. Okay? That's how we're going to change it. All right.
All right, I guess I would like to thank everybody again for coming. And again, for any of you that might have an inkling to do something, you know, let me know. I'm more than willing to take somebody on to do something. If you feel that you need to do, oh, that's his sign to petitions. If you guys want, if you haven't had a chance to sign a petition, if you want to sign one, now is a perfect time. Head and back. They will help you fill out those petitions now that you know what happens with petitions. Yep, now next on my list. For those of you that are in my Facebook group, okay, I don't plan on shutting that down any way, shape, or form. I'm hoping that it's going to continue to still grow. I hope you guys continue to invite people, bring more people in. I'm hoping that we can start doing a monthly thing. I'm going to continue to share as much information I have in regard to what things that we need to be looking for, watching out for, you know, all the new bills that are coming out, the reconciliation bill, the debt ceiling, all those things that we need to be watching, what things we need to be doing, calling our reps about. Please watch that page if you guys are looking for where you guys can make a change. What you can do on this, you know, with this group here, you know, as far as being a volunteer, that's the easy thing, okay? If you guys get 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes out of your day, we've got little things to do that's just as simple as making phone calls for, you know, other town hall meetings, okay? We didn't do phone calls for this one, but there's always a town hall meeting that's going to be going on somewhere that they need help making phone calls and letting people know that town hall is going on. Maybe you're somebody who wants to visit the state capitol. You want to be part of that. Those are things that, you know, you can be part of. But just let us know. Okay, we are happy to bring you on and let you guys know where you can help or how you can help. Okay? Thank you again for coming. We appreciate it. Don't forget to grab some information in back, and please feel free to grab that comment card for Greg Davids. Thank you. How do we feel that went?
How do I think it went?
Yeah.
I feel like it went